بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المعصومين الأبرار الميامين المظلومين المضطهدين. السلام عليك وعلى ولدك المظلوم أبي عبد الله الحسين. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب يا مظلوم يا عطشان كربلاء، ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم، أمن من لجأ والتجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا فيا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا جاءهم أمر من الأمن والخوف أذاعوا به ولو ردوه إلى الرسول وإلى أولي الأمر منهم لعلمه الذين يستنبطونه منهم ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته لاتبعتم الشيطان إلا قليلا. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. I would like to begin by, first of all, thanking Samahat al-Sheikh, Ma'sumin Islamic Center. Yeah, that's the Sheikh I was mentioning. So the brothers are looking around, which Sheikh is sitting there? Sheikh Jafar. I'm fortunate that I am in his company. Alhamdulillah. So Sheikh Jafar, the Ma'sumin, all of you, thank you. Thank you for giving me this honor, for giving me this privilege, allowing me to commemorate with all of you. As a born Torontonian, always good to come back. Although I don't come out to the West End very much, so this is a little new to me. Alhamdulillah, I'm from Scarborough. I was born in North York, so mostly East Side. That's where the real Toronto is, actually, I think. I'm going to create a lot of enemies tonight. But in any case, I'm at your service in these next few nights. With Samahat al-Sheikh here, there's nothing really I can contribute or share. But I offer it anyway, that during my stay, I'm here at your service. If you have any questions, and even the sisters, I always make it a point to mention to the sisters that if you have questions or would like to discuss anything, I'm at your service, inshallah, during my visit. And again, thank you for having me. In these days where we commemorate the legacy of Imam Abi Abdullah al-Husayn, alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And now specifically, the legacy of Al-Hawra Al-Aqila Zainab Al-Kubra alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It is imperative that every year, as we sit in the majlis of Al-Imam Al-Husayn, indeed in any majlis, in any gathering where the name of Allah, where the book of Allah is studied, it is recounted, and the legacy of the Ahl al-Bayt is discussed, that we have to improve and get better. And not only get better, but make it a conscious point that we are introspective in our approach. Meaning, anything and everything that we do must begin with looking inward. Because everything that the Quran teaches us, everything that the Quran reflects to us, is going to be from there. It will begin inside and emanate outward. And you see that even Islam as a religion, whatever we have today, after more than 1400 years, it reflects the microcosm of each insan. Yes, we have over 1 billion Muslims in the world today. 1 billion. Are all of those Muslims mu'min? Probably not. Are all of those mu'min muttaqi? Even fewer in number are muttaqi. Of all those who are muttaqi, who have true taqwa inside of them, how many of them actually have true certainty in Allah? Maybe a speck. Maybe a very tiny number has, out of the 1 billion who we have in the world today. What does that tell us? That despite having 1 billion Muslims in the world, we still maybe have not really encapsulated the message of Islam the way we were supposed to. Because if we did, would Muslims be in the state we are today? What we see happening in the world today, why is it happening? And yes, there is definitely an aggressor. There is somebody who is standing against Muslims. But are our problems sheerly because of that aggressor? Is it sheerly and only because of what is being done to us, or does it begin with us first? And maybe that is the question we have to ask, that in 1400 years, not even 1400 years, take 23 years, 33 years, the initial years of Islam, what happened to Islam? Look at any movement that you can think of in history, go and study what it looks like, and you will see a pattern. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, when he first appeared and proclaimed the message, whether it was da'wat dhul ashira, whether it was going outside of the family and to the general public, how many Muslims were there? You could count on one hand, maybe, in those first moments. Yes? Very few. Now, when you look at the composition of these individuals who made up the initial movement of Islam, call it just a movement. It is deen of Allah, it is the message of Allah, but call it a movement. How do you describe these initial few individuals who made up Islam? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wa salam, and Sayyidah Khadijah al-Kubra alayhi salatu wa salam, include Abu Talib in the middle of this, yes? Maybe Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib into this, but you can count on your one hand who these people are. You see in any movement, anywhere you see in the world today, modern or in the past, it begins homogeneous. Those who have joined the movement, those who are becoming part of this, have become part of it. Why? Because they believe in the message, right? Otherwise, who would join? You would join a mass movement that has 2 people in it? Tell me, as a human being, if somebody comes to you and says, look, I have a new theory, I want you to follow my group, join my movement. They describe the theory, it sounds reasonable. It sounds reasonable to you, it makes sense. But then you ask them, how many people do you have in your group? And they come back and they say, well, it's just me and my wife right now. Yes? Will you follow? You'll never follow. Hajj already, he says, no, I'll never follow. I'm with you. I will never follow. You'll say 2 people, that doesn't make any sense. But is there any questioning that this man and his wife who is presenting the movement to you, that they don't believe in it sincerely? Of course they do. Otherwise they wouldn't come and tell you about it, would they? They would look and they will say, we believe sincerely. So when that movement begins, those adherents who are part of that movement are extremely sincere. They're homogeneous. And by virtue of the power of that message, what happens? People start to join. They start to grow. Not only do they start to grow, but you see, as people start to come and join the movement, is everyone as sincere as those first few people who joined or who started the movement? Are they? Chances are they are not. They are not sincere. Why? Because those first few people who joined, they believed from their heart in the message. They didn't need to be bribed. They didn't need a motivation. They saw the truth of the message and they joined. Because other than that, there's nothing to gain out of it. There's no benefit in joining it. My dears, I'm giving you this broad picture. Consider this even in our own individual actions. Why we do what we do. Yes? What are we driven by to act as quote-unquote Muslim? And I say quote-unquote Muslim because maybe it remains to be determined the value of being called that Muslim. So now you see that the movement grows. More people are joining. Not only are more people joining, but you can see that the motivation with which they are joining is becoming questionable. Now, what was initially about sincerity, what was about them believing in Allah, now is about something else. It could be just that they see that the tide is going towards this direction, we better follow along with that direction. And you see that the motivations become mixed. Why? I'll come to it. In the year of the Sha'ab of Abi Talib, when the Quraysh came and embargoed the Banu Hashim, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. You know that they were pushed out into the ravine, into that valley, and the Quraysh, they signed a document that said nobody is to do trade with them, no one is to marry them, no one is to have dealing with them. They were pushed out. The historical evidence, what does it say? That in these 3 years of absolute difficulty, they will take the leaves off of the brush, the bushes that were in the desert, they will take them, they couldn't eat them by themselves, they will boil them in the water, and they will drink the water or eat the leaves that had become softened by the boiling. There was no food, no water. The children were thirsty. They say in those days, the history describes, there were two men who will sneak out in the middle of the night from Quraysh. One was the nephew of Khadijah al-Kubra alayha salam. He will come out and they will sneak food and they will bring whatever provisions they can. Many times they got accosted, they got beaten, there was skirmishes, etc. But they will bring to the Muslims. Now some of the historians, they ask this question, that these are the early days, before Hijrah. Before Hijrah. Didn't Islam grow? There were more. Were only the Muslims who were there at that time Banu Hashim, or were there some from other tribes? And the answer is quite clear, that there were Muslims who were in Mecca, who had accepted Islam, joined this movement, but they were not part of Bani Hashim. If they were not part of Bani Hashim, were they in the ravine? Were they embargoed? No. They were living in Mecca. So the historians ask this question, why didn't they help? Why these two, this nephew of Sayyidah Khadija, this one other man, they are now coming secretly? Even the history says what? That they weren't Muslim themselves. Khadija's nephew was not a Muslim. The man who was helping him, he was not a Muslim. They were idol worshippers. But out of the pain of feeling humanity for the Banu Hashim, the children of Banu Hashim, they will sneak the food out. Tell me, there were not other Muslims who were living in Mecca at that time? There is no evidence that they were coming secretly in the night, that they were helping. What does that tell you? That at that point, Islam is quite early in the first decade of the message of Rasulullah, and already what do you see? In the first decade only. You see what? That you have an initial group of people who are sincere, who are firmly on the path of religion. Why? Because they believe it with conviction, and those who are joining for other reasons. Or maybe joining with some amount of sincerity, but it remains to be determined how firm they will be on that path. This is very common. That's why the ayah of the Quran, what does it say? It says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. Right? Allah says, I have purchased. The beauty of this verse is that it describes some very simple things to you. The concept of trade, yes. Not only the concept of trade, but who is selling, who is buying, what are you getting, what is its significance. Allah is the purchaser. He purchases from the mu'mineen what? Their nafs and their property. And in return, what do you get in payment? Jannah. You get Jannah. So Allah is setting from the beginning that this is the code. Now, in those early days in Mecca, the Quraysh, they were very harsh on the Muslims. We know about Bilal al-Habashi. We know about the torture of Ammar ibn Yasir's mother and father and their killing. We know how difficult it was. They say, the history says, that the Muslims will come, some of them, to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and they will say, Ya Rasulullah, allow us to go fight. If you're being persecuted, even if you're small in number, they're beating you, they're hitting you, they're throwing garbage on you, what do you want to do? You want to fight. The men feel it inside of them, they want to fight. So the ayah of the Quran, it comes down in those early days. It says to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, وَلَا تُطِعْ الْكَافِرِينَ وَالْمُنَافِقِينَ وَدَعْ أَذَاهُمْ. It says, don't obey, don't follow the way of the kafirin and the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, and leave off retaliating against their adha, the pain they are causing you. Meaning, the Quran came down expressly, gave an answer to these men who were coming and saying to Rasulullah, let us fight, let us fight. It said, no, right now is not the time. Right now is not the time. What happens? Laylat al-Mabit, Rasulullah is in his home. Allah commands him, do hijrah, move to Medina. Now the time has come, because why? They're going to kill you. You all know Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam sleeps in the bed. After he goes to Medina, what ayah comes down? أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. Allah gives permission to those people, those individuals who are now being warred against, people are assaulting them, attacking them, that they have been oppressed. They've been oppressed. And not only have they been oppressed, but that Allah is going to come to their nusrah. When they moved to Medina, things changed. Yes? Not only did things change, but look at what now the ayah says. It says, وَلَمَّا كُتِبَ عَلَيْهُمُ الْقِتَالِ. When the fight and the standing up in defense of the religion is now ordered upon them. They're in Medina now. They've left Mecca. They've come to the new nation that Rasul is building. The order has been given to them that they have to fight. What does it say? إِذَا فَرِيقٌ مِّنْهُمْ يَخْشَوْنَ النَّاسَ كَخَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. The ayah is very clear. These same men who in Mecca were asking Rasulullah to fight, they've moved to Medina. Now they say, we're too afraid to fight. We're too afraid to fight the army that's coming up against us. Look how it changes. What they were asking just not few years before, now has changed. These are early Muslims. These are the Salaf we're talking about, no? The Salaf who are lauded and praised, these are those individuals who are coming and now saying, no, we cannot fight. Just, my dear, look at Badr and look at Uhud. Look at Badr and look at Uhud. In Badr, they come out, 313, as is reported, and fight an army much larger in size, and by the help of Allah, they defeat the enemy. Yes? They defeat the enemy. Now you come out at Uhud, what happens? Uhud is the same? Uhud is not the same. Khandaq is the same? Khandaq is not the same. Hunayn is the same? Hunayn is also not the same. You see, why? Because that movement that was homogeneous now has grown. Now as it grows and Islam gets stronger, more resources, what happens to those people who are joining the religion? They're doing so why? Because they believe in Allah? Maybe not. Maybe because what? They see the success of Islam, they say what? We need spoils of war. We need the spoils of war. Islam is going to overtake, we don't want to be left in the minority. My dears, look at the masjid, look at the masjid. Just take your own masjid, okay? And I am not pointing finger at anybody, I am not judging anybody, I am the first in this category. Everybody who comes into this masjid, are they all the same? You're all the same? You're not the same. None of us are the same. Some people will come to the masjid, why? Because they love the sound of Sheikh Ja'far's voice. Huh? They want to pray behind him. They want to do dua kumail, they want to pray. They don't care, they'll sit in the corner, they will pray. Other people, they come, why? Why do they come? Because everybody's going. Everybody's showing up on a Sunday night. Yes? So they follow the crowd. Moreover, that person, the first person I described, their spirituality, their connection to Allah, is it the same as the other people who have come in? Is everyone's connection to Allah the same? It's not the same. Let me ask you this question. You are lucky people, very lucky. You live in Toronto. I was just told that Brampton, Mississauga itself has like 10 centers. There are communities where they're struggling to put one center. One center. They're struggling, and that too is a massive undertaking just to get one center up. Now let me ask you this. You as yourself, your individual, would you be the same Muslim, the same quote-unquote mu'min today here in Brampton at Ma'sumin as you would be in a city where there's no center? Would you be the same Muslim, the same mu'min? Ask yourself this question. Or are you determined by your surroundings? Yes? Or are you determined by the strength of your community or the services offered by your mosque? Because what should the answer be? I am the same person whether I have a center or I what? I don't have a center. Whether I'm worshiping in Ma'sumin or I'm worshiping where? In a cave somewhere, yes? Do they have caves in Mississauga? Maybe you have caves, I don't know. We have caves in North Carolina, so people go there and they worship. Yes? You get my point what I'm saying. This is insan's nature. And you see this as a trend throughout, okay? I, being a scientist, I always share this, and it's the first night, so I will keep it relatively straightforward, inshallah. I said that we are a microcosm of this. Ask yourself why you are Muslim. Our children should ask this question. Is it because I've been coming to Ma'soomeen since I was a newborn? Am I a Muslim because my parents are Muslim? Am I a follower of Ahl al-Bayt because I saw everyone doing it? Everyone was doing it. It looked like the right thing to do, so I'm going to follow. I have a beautiful center. The Qariq comes in. He's, I was going to say young and handsome, but I can't say that. He's some old guy with a white beard. All of these things, you have to ask yourself these questions. What brought you to Islam, and what is it that has made you at the level of your own spirituality in that moment? Because human beings are profoundly shaped by this. Let me give you an example. In Chile, in 2011, I don't know how many of you know this, there was lots and lots of protest. It was called the student protest or the education protest in Chile. Why? Because the standards for education in Chile at that time were very bad. They were extremely low, and students were suffering. So what did they do? They went out and they protested, and they protested, and they protested. Now, not only did they protest, but it turns out that over the next 6 months to 1 year to 1 year and a half, that political changes happened. Things changed. The government started to put more things into effect to help education, to provide services, giving equal opportunity to everybody to get educated. But what they couldn't determine is if the protest actually had anything to do with it. So they did a study. They went in and they talked to people who were living in Chile at that time and who were witnessing the protest or participating, and they asked them. They said, do you identify with the student protesters? And have you participated with them? 2 questions. Do you identify or do you participate? I hope you're getting where I'm going with this. I'm trying not to be too overt with it. You identify with the protesters and or do you participate? Some group in the middle, in the beginning, they come forward. They say, we identify, we are protesters, and we were participating in the protest. We were there walking in the streets. That's one group. Another group said, we identify. We feel bad for the students, but we didn't participate. We didn't protest. We identify with them, but we didn't protest. The third group, they didn't identify, they didn't protest at all. They took these people, they put them through a questionnaire, and they asked them that at moments of failure, what happened? When things became difficult, when failure happened, how did you respond? And the data from their answers is so clear, so clear. The group that didn't identify, that didn't participate, what happens to them? Everyone can guess. They abandon it. They didn't care to begin with, so it's nothing to them. They never identified with it to begin with. The group that's on the other side, the ones who identified but did not participate, meaning they felt something for the movement but didn't actually do anything. What happened to them? What was once a moral sort of awakening inside of them to go support and to say this is a worthwhile cause became what? Disillusionment. Failure came up of their face and they gave up. They walked away. Now the third group, they're the interesting ones. The group that says we identify and we participate, meaning they're there protesting every day. 2 things happened to them, 2 groups. One group that said we are morally correct, we are right, we're going to continue. We're going to keep going. We're going to stay on this course and we're going to keep going. If the method worked, it was successful, we will keep doing that method. And we will keep going. But there was another group that broke off from this group who identified and participated, who said what? We need to become more extreme. Yes? The tactics are not working, so you have to become way more extreme. And they started doing things that nobody would agree to, was not considered to be moral. My dears, does Tashayyu' not have this? Tell me. Tashayyu' doesn't have this? That when the time gets difficult on our a'imma, we don't see ghulu popping up everywhere? For whatever reason it could be, personal gain, whatever, distorting the meaning. Ghulu, extremism doesn't pop up? Extreme behavior? Now let me come back to it. All of this happens why? Why? Because of 3 things. Because 1, you have some amount of foundational information, some knowledge, something that has brought you to this movement that made you become a part of it. If that is sound, then you will be a true follower, yes? But if it's not sound, then what? then you will have a problem. Then you're not going to be a true follower. So that's one thing. The second thing is perception of success. How do you perceive that movement to move forward and be successful? That is extremely key. Because if your perception is that the minute you hit failure, the movement is dead, right? Then that means what? The movement was never real to begin with. It had no basis in truth, nor in haqq, nor in anything. So your perception of failure is extremely, extremely important. And number three, external forces. How are you shaped by those who are around you and feeling the pinch around you? My dears, just look at the legacy of the A'immah al-Athhar alayhim as-salatu was-salam. I gave you this ayah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. They say one day Al-Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salatu was-salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He's going, as was his custom, many times on foot to Mecca for Hajj. So it's reported one day he's walking to Hajj, and somebody comes next to him and he says, Yabna Rasulillah, you're going for Hajj. He says, I see you going repeatedly for Hajj. Every year you're going for Hajj. He says, have you not heard the ayah of the Quran? This man is telling Imam Sajjad. إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ. Allah has purchased from the believers their nafs and their wealth and given in return Jannah. They are being fought against. People are oppressing and fighting them. They're being killed, and in defense of the religion, they are killing as well. The man, he says to Imam Sajjad, he says, Yabna Rasulillah, your father Al-Hussein was killed in Karbala, and you're going walking to Hajj? You're going walking to Hajj? You have not stood up, you have not fought? Valid question, no? Valid question? Not a valid question. He asks, so what's the answer? Strange answer. Go back again to what I said. That the movement starts off with all sincere people, and then as it grows, it becomes diluted. No? It becomes diluted. Any community is this way. Any movement is in this manner. Al-Imam al-Sajjad, he asks him, he says, yes, you're right, that is the ayah of the Quran. But he says, have you read the ayah that comes very after it? The verse of the Quran that's absolutely right next to it? He says, no, I have not. Al-Imam al-Sajjad, he says, التائبون العابدون الحامدون السائحون الراكعون الساجدون الآمرون بالمعروف والناهون عن المنكر والحافظون لحدود الله وبشر المؤمنين. He says, تائبون, the repentant, the penitent, al-abidun, the worshipful, the hamidun, the praisers of Allah, the raki'un, those who go into bowing, sajidun, those who prostrate, go down into sajda, amaruna bil ma'ruf, those who do amr bil ma'ruf, those who do nahi anil munkar, those who preserve the limits of Allah and give the good news to the mu'mineen. Imam Sajjad, he says, I did not find these people that I can stand up with them to avenge my father. He's not living in a community of Muslimin, mu'mineen, no? But that movement that started homogeneous, powerful, strong, now has become what? It has become diluted. That's why even today, how many stand against tyranny and oppression in the world? How many of the 1 billion? A handful. Handful stand. It's only a handful that don't go to the water with talut and drink and drink and drink and drink and become weak. Yes? Why? This is what we should ask ourselves. Why? And what does that mean for me, myself? Have I approached this movement, and I keep calling it a movement, it is our life. Deen is life. Our religion is our life. And so we have to ask the question, what has brought me here? Is it expediency? Is it because this is what my mother and father did? What is the reason? And you will see after the events of Karbala, what happens? The Tawwabun, they come out. Before the Tawwabun, you all know this, that Abdullah ibn Hanzala, what does he do? He leaves Medina, and with a group of people in the 63rd year after Hijrah, he goes to Damascus to see Yazid. And he wants to complain about the state of affairs. Yazid showers him with praise, and he gives him gifts and everything. But this man, Abdullah, he goes back, he's very angry. He tells the people of Medina that this man Yazid, la'natullahi alayh, is not supposed to be Amir al-Fasiqeen. He is not supposed to be the leader of anything. We must depose him. And so they start to gather, and you see the event of Harra. They stand up and they protest. So now under the command of Muslim ibn Aqba, Yazid sends an army down to Medina, and for 3 days, Yazid tells them, pillage and loot and kill everybody. They kill many people. They pillage. Even the report says that, wal-ayadu billah, illegitimate children because of what was happening in the city during these 3 days. It was so bad. It was so bad. What was Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam doing? See, if anyone has a right to stand, who does? The grandson of Rasulullah. This was his father who stood against this tyrant. And yet, he remains neutral. He remains neutral, why? Because he wants to instill in people the true meaning of what is Islam. And even those who are running from the mob in Medina, he protects them. He protects them and saves them and does good to them. After then, the Tawwabun come out, 64th year, 65th year, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. Now, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi essentially is doing the same thing, yes? Why did he not join the Tawwabun? The men who came out feeling penitent that they did not support Imam Hussein because they had been imprisoned, they first go to Karbala, they cry and weep and mourn Imam Hussein, offer their repentance, and they rise. And at a place called Ain al-Warda, they go and they meet and they go to fight the Banu Umayyah. Why did Mukhtar not join them? The historians write one very conclusive answer: because he did not believe that they would be successful. He's a mu'min, they are mu'min. And again, I am not disparaging Mukhtar or the Tawwabun. I'm saying consider the heterogeneity of the Muslim population. Why Tawwabun thought they will be successful and rose, and Mukhtar did not, but then on his own moved forward to do so. Imagine the types of people. Now in the fighting against Mukhtar, there was a man named Shabath. Shabath al-Rub'i. Shabath al-Rub'i, this man is a very interesting case. I don't know if you've ever heard of Shabath. Shabath al-Rub'i, they say when Rasulullah, he died and left this world, this man, he became a murtad. They say that. In his tribe, there was a woman. There's a historical account that when Rasulullah died, there was a woman in his tribe who proclaimed to be the next Nabi. That she said, I am a Nabi. And so the Muslims fought. They say this man Shabath was in her tribe. They say he followed. After some time, he came back to Islam. He came back to Islam, refused to accept Uthman, the third Khalifa, but then joined Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. How this all happens is interesting just to look at this one individual. In the Battle of Safin, when the fight stops, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam has no option. The men are not listening, so he has to do what? He has to have a treaty. There has to be mediation now with the army of Muawiyah la'natullahi alayh. They say this man Shabath ibn Rab'i, he goes and he joins Muawiyah's side. He switches sides right then and there to the side of Muawiyah. And he stays with Muawiyah la'natullahi alayh and becomes his help. Muawiyah dies, Yazid comes. They say this man Shabath now, after being in the army of Imam Ali on the Battle of Safin, starting on the side of Imam Ali in Battle of Safin, is now against Imam Hussein in the Battle of Karbala. But not before what? He was one of the people who sent a letter to Imam Hussein that come to me. Come to us to Kufa, we will support you. Look, these are the people who have entered into the fold of what we call Islam. And again, we are not that. We are devoted to our religion, to our cause, but we must understand how external forces shape us, how what we have been raised to believe is shaping us, how our perception of success is shaping us. All of that, because in all of those revolts, whether it is that, Tawwabun, Mukhtar, even the rise of Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyya in the time of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, or Zayd, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Or in the fight of Zayd, the son of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, our Imams stood and fought? They stood and fought? No. Because maybe the message was to us, as Imam Sajjad told the man at Hajj, that these are not real believers. That it is a crowd of Muslims, it is a community of Muslims, but the true believer is very few. That is a message to us, the Shia. That is a message to us from our Imam, that go and check what you believe. Check what you follow. Don't be influenced, and ask yourself, why do you follow this path? Is it because everyone's doing it and you're following along? Is it because you have a center that's active? Or if you were to be in a cave in North Carolina, you would still follow in the same manner, yes? That is an extremely important thing. Why? because it creates your self-identity, my dears. And this is what Al-Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam fought for. I promised you I will start simple, and inshallah I will build from here over the next few nights. This is the challenge on us, to dig deep inside ourselves to understand, to see how insan's nature is, the world is. Because imamat, it was not about rising up and fighting. That's why after Imam Hussein, how many imams pulled the sword? How many? Even Imam Sajjad, what is it reported? That if the killer of my father left his sword and walked away unaware, I would still not pick it up to attack him. Ya Allah. Why? Because maybe the goal is to say you must preserve. You build and you preserve and you preserve and you preserve. Because even if you've got 2, 3, 5, 6 who truly believe in that initial movement, you will eventually win. You don't have to have millions. You don't have to have thousands. You need 72 who will follow you sincerely. You will win. 313, that's all you need. You will win as long as they are firm and they know without a doubt that this is the truth. They have no doubt in the success of that movement in front of them. This is Karbala. And we have to ask ourselves, are we one of them? Are we one of these people? This is something that they gave to us, the A'imma al-Athhar, and give it with a very high price. The Rawi, he says that even Al-Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam, that Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, that when the pressure of the ruling regime was on him, a command came that to the governor of Medina to go burn the house of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Now he has a house with his women folk, his children. The Rawi, he says that they burned the house, and Imam Sadiq, the family is running from the burning home. Imam Sadiq is trying to put and extinguish the fire. After some time, the Rawi, it's reported, he describes, he says, I came into the room and I saw my master, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, he was sitting against the wall on the ground. He says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, ma li araka hazinan kaiba. How is it that I see you with so much sorrow and sad, down like this? He says, you are the family of the Prophet. You are used to trial and difficulty and persecution and tyranny. How is it that I see you like this? Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam, he says, لما فرت النساء ذكرت فرار نساء الحسين يوم عاشوراء. He says, when the ladies of my house began to run from the burning house, I could only think of one thing: the running of the daughters and the ladies of Al-Hussein from the burning tents on the day of Ashura. Ah, ya Zainab. That in these days, my dears, just imagine that scene that is there. That even it is reported that one of the daughters of Al-Imam Al-Hussein, she tells from her own voice, that I came out of the tent. I noticed my sisters and my aunts and the ladies running in every direction. The tents are burning. And I looked around, and for a moment I thought, the enemy has not seen me. They did not notice me. She says, until I saw a man looking at me, staring at me, and start to approach me now. I turned around and I started to run in the desert. As I ran in the desert, a little while went by. I thought maybe I have escaped him. I escaped until I felt the spear on my back. Until I felt that spear on my back. My dears, the hands are tied with ropes, huh? The salasil are around the a'naq, around the necks. Even it's reported from Al-Imam As-Sajjad that وضعوا الحديد السلاسل على عنقي وربطوا به على عنق عمتي زينب. They tied the chain on my neck, and then from my neck to the neck of Sayyida Zainab, my aunt Zainab, and from her neck to the neck of the other ladies, one by one making us walk inside of the desert. They say, Al-Imam As-Sajjad alayhi salatu was-salam, he says, وَإِذَا دَمَعَتْ مِنَّا الْعَيْنِ قُرِعَ عَلَى رُؤُوسِنَا بِالرَّمْحِ. He says that if as we were walking, We are in the middle, 20 women. I am sick, surrounded by the soldiers. The spear with the head of Imam al-Hussein is being carried amongst us. If a tear appears on any one of our eyes, they will take the spear and hit us on our heads. They will not even allow the tear to come out of our eyes until we are brought in front of Sham. And that's why when Al-Imam al-Sajjad is asked that you experience so much difficulty, what is the most difficult moment, Ya ibn Rasulullah? Al-Imam al-Sajjad, he says, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. Our beloved Ahl al-Bayt, alayhim as-salatu was-salam, the Rawi, he says that the prisoners were taken out of the court of Yazid, la'natullahi alayh. They were placed in the Khariba of Sham. The Khariba of Sham is like a holding area, a prison of sorts. There is no roof on top. The sun would beat down upon them all day, burning their skin, deprived of even the basic of necessities. The Rawi, he says that the news had spread inside of Sham until finally a lady from inside of the castle, she descends down with her servants coming to see who are these prisoners who are being held in the Khariba of Sham. The Rawi, he says, this noble lady comes to the door of the prison. The servant places the chair in front of the door. She sits down. The door of the prison is opened. The noble lady sitting on the chair looks inside the prison. She sees a number of ladies there with their heads down. The sun has been beating down on them. They are clearly in a state of prison. They are asir, they are the sabaya of somebody. The lady, the noble lady sitting on the chair, she asks them, she says, Min ayyi bilad antun? What country have you come from? One of the ladies inside of the prison, she says, Nahnu min al-Madina. We are from the Medina. The noble lady, she says, Al-Mudun kathira min ayyi Medina. There are so many cities. Which city have you come from? The same lady from inside of the prison, she says, Min Madinati Rasulillah. When she hears that these prisoners are from Madinati Rasulillah, the noble lady, she gets down from the chair and sits on the ground. The woman in the prison, she says, why have you gotten down from your chair? She says, because you took the name of Rasulullah's city. You are the people of that city. Out of respect for you, I have come down. She says, As'aluki an baytin fil Medina. The noble lady, she says, if you permit me, I want to ask about one specific house in Medina. Wa an ahlaha. I want to know about the family. She says, go ahead and ask the noble lady. She says to her, أريد أن أعرف عن أهل علي بن أبي طالب عن دار علي. I want to know about the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The answer from inside of the prison comes, لقد خلفناها تنعى أهلها. We left it behind, mourning for its members in Medina. Then the noble lady, she says, أريد أن أسألك عن سيدي ومولاي الحسين. أين الحسين ابن علي؟ أريد أن أعرف أين أبي الفضل العباس؟ أين علي بن الحسين الأكبر؟ أين أم كلثوم؟ أين سيد السجاد؟ أين سكينة بنت الحسين؟ The noble lady, she keeps asking, I want to know where is Al-Hussein. I want to know where is Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. I want to know where is Ali al-Akbar. What is the news of them? Where is Kulthum? Where is Sukaina and As-Sajjad? That same lady from inside of the prison. She says, فَإِن سَأَلْتِ عَنِ الْحُسَينِ فَرَأْسُهُ عِنْدَ زَوْجُكِ يَزِيدُ. If you are asking about Al-Hussein, his head is with your husband Yazid. This is Hind, the wife of Yazid. She says, وَإِن سَأَلْتِ عَنْ أَبِي الْفَضْلِ الْعَبَّاسِ فَعَلَى الْمَشْرَعَةِ مَرْضُوخِ الْجَبِينِ قَطِيعِ الْيَسَارِ وَالْيَمِينِ. If you are asking about Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, the body was left near the river. The arms have been severed from the body. The arrow is in the eye. وَإِن سَأَلْتِ عَنْ عَلِيٍّ الْأَكْبَرِ فَقَدْ قَطَّعُوهُ بِأَسْيَافِهِمْ إِرَبًا. If you are asking about Ali al-Akbar, they cut him to pieces with their swords. If you are asking about Kulthum, she is here right next to me. وَإِن سَأَلْتِ عَنْ سُكَيْنَا. If you are asking about Sukaina bint al-Hussein, we have buried her in the grave right here in the prison. And if you are asking about Ali as-Sajjad, he is sick here in the prison with us. Suddenly the noble lady becomes silent. Then she looks up at the prisoners. She says, أريد أن أعرف أين سيدتي ومولاتي زينب الكبرى. Where is my master Zainab bint Ali? That same lady from inside of the prison raises her head and she says, أنا زينب اللي يحجون عني. Did you not recognize me? I am Zainab, I am not Zainab. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك ونقسم عليك بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها لعن الله ظالميها. اللهم شافي كل مريض، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك يا كريم. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك وجنبنا معاصيك وثبت أقدامنا على صراطك المستقيم، وخذ بأيدينا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين، وفرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر وهو أقرب من ذلك، وافرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.